let's talk about cultivating a healthy mental self-care routine for artists.
I think this kind of goes hand in hand with the physical. If you think about it this way, our minds are the engine behind everything that we do. And if we don't take care of them, then how are we supposed to do any of this art? And with that, it is the most vulnerable as well. If it's the engine, right? If you think about it, our cars do not run without an engine. So we cannot run without our minds. And so it's essential for our creative practice to take care of our mental well-being. And as a result, we will be able to be more creative by using our imagination and maintaining really good relationships with our art practice. And let me explain what that means. So as artists, we are constantly on an emotional roller coaster. We could be working on a collection of art that is going well. We like the process of creating that art. Everything is going smoothly. We have been able to sell different art pieces from that collection, and we're just feeling great. But there are other times in our art practice that we can feel frustrated, and we come up against those artist blocks or those creative blocks that I talked about in the last video, where we can feel stressed and overwhelmed, and perhaps the process isn't going as well as we thought, or maybe we can't get those ideas that we have in our mind down onto the paper or the canvas or whatever we're working on. And so there's a frustration level there. And so it's a roller coaster. We are on highs and we are on lows in this process of creating art. I don't know about you, but I tend to struggle with perfectionism. It's something that I actually have said I am a recovering perfectionist, because I know that in my art, it's okay that not everything is going to go exactly the way that you think. And I think that's why I like mixed media so much, because it gives me that ability to just play and discover, and I don't have to worry about being so perfect with my art. But it is definitely something that artists struggle with, which leads to that self-criticism, which can also lead to burnout, right? Because we are like, oh, I just can't get anything. I can't get any of this art right. And so we start to feel like it has to be perfect. Sometimes the things that are not so perfect are actually the most beautiful and unique parts of our art. So the next thing that I want to talk about is when we feel isolated or even lonely as an artist. Sometimes we are in our studio, we're doing our thing, and we don't have a lot of other people to talk to. And so I really encourage you to become a part of a community. I have 2 memberships that I'm a part of. Inspire Blueprint with Tatiana Muse is a group of entrepreneurs that if I didn't have this group, I don't even know if I would be here today. It has been so encouraging for me as an artist, and there are so many different types of women in that group that are, trying to do different business types. It just works because we all have that drive that we want to do something with our lives, and we're able to encourage one another and support one another as we work through that. Another group that I just recently joined is Crash with Jessica Stansberry. Trying it out, seeing how I like it. But another way that I can gain support through being a creator. So, and then I have my Patreon group that I am slowly building up, where we can support and encourage one another as well. Connecting with other artists specifically helps with feedback, collaboration, And really, we just understand each other, right? Other artists understand other artists. We understand the mediums and maybe the struggles that we're having with a particular medium, or maybe we're trying to draw faces and another artist can give us some tips and tricks on how to better figure out the human face. So it's just working together and connecting that can really help us in our mental state as an artist, because we are getting that encouragement and that support that we need. And I need to note, I am not a professional when it comes to speaking about mental health. So if you feel like you need to talk to someone, you can talk to the people within your community, within your art community, but if you feel like you need to talk to a professional, I think that everybody should have somebody that they can talk to. Being able to reach out and connect with a good therapist that can help us to work through things, I think is completely acceptable. And actually, I think it should be normal, just like when we go to our doctor visits and we go to get our eyes checked and we go to the dentist. Therapy can really help us to manage those different stresses that we have in our lives as artists. So connecting with someone in the professional realm is always a great idea. So one part of mental self-care, one part of mental self-care that I think is so important is play. So as an artist, I think it's so important that we play and discover and try new things. And that really helps our mental well-being, because then we don't have to take ourselves so seriously. Playing with our art isn't going to necessarily end up being like a huge canvas up on some gallery wall. So we don't have the pressure. So I highly recommend a sketchbook that we can play in and try new things and have fun. And we don't have to take, the production of this finished piece so seriously. We can just relax and enjoy the process. And this ties into creative blocks. I think that we need to understand that creative blocks are going to come. They are a natural part of being an artist. We're not always going to have all our ducks in a row, and things are going to come up that we're just like, I can't figure this out. I'm super overwhelmed. I'm stressed. And we might find ourselves in that place that we feel stuck, right? And those creative blocks will come. So just knowing that they're going to come will help us recognize them when they do come. And then we need to try kind of new tactics. Maybe we change up our environment. Maybe we try a new medium. Maybe we collaborate with others to get some ideas. If we recognize and address these seasons of burnout, then it'll help us to kind of push ourselves forward, push ourselves through those burnout situations, which goes back to taking breaks and making sure that you have time of rest that I talked about with our physical self-care. With our mental self-care, those breaks are just as important. So I made a video a couple weeks ago about solitude. I think that if you can find little pockets of time that you can spend alone, I highly encourage it. So those solitude times where we're not in all this social mess, right? Spending hours scrolling away on our phones and streaming, Netflix for hours, all of those kinds of things, or just those social connections that we have, out in the world. Finding that place of solitude really helps us with our mental self-care as an artist in such an impactful way. I think those are the times that I can really get into that creative space and really find, new inspiration and things, unlike any thing that I could scroll. I could spend hours on Pinterest and not find what I'm looking for, and spend an hour in solitude and just thinking and praying and, spending time by myself, journaling perhaps, and come up with more ideas than I ever would on a social platform. And then the last thing I want to talk about, and I think this is super vital in your art practice, is creating boundaries for yourself. Setting boundaries means starting with a good schedule, and maybe having a planner that you use to help regulate some of those breaks and some of those rest times, just to really give yourself a break from your art. Your whole life shouldn't be consumed with art. You should not be working on your art 24/7. You have a family, you have friends, you have meals that you need to stop doing your art and go eat your meal. All of those things are super important. I think that by setting those boundaries, we should also think about the expectations that we have as artists, so that we are not so hard on ourselves, and that we look at all that we're doing as self-compassion. Like, we need to be like, it's okay that I made a mistake. It's okay that I didn't draw the nose correctly. Let me erase it and try it again. I think that it's okay to experience those ups and downs, and we need to be just pour grace on ourselves, be gentle with ourselves, and not constantly beating ourselves up with those mental thoughts, those negative mental thoughts that we can, oh, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, why am I wasting my time, this doesn't even look good, those kinds of things that we can tell ourselves. Instead, we really need to be more self-compassionate when it comes to who we are as artists and what we are doing through our art practice. Mental self-care isn't just something that we add on to our art practice. It really should be something that is fundamental to our art practice on a daily basis. By prioritizing physical and mental self-care, we can really flourish as artists. And isn't that really what we want to do? We want to flourish. We want to create some amazing art so that we can share it with other people. Well, in order to do that, we really need to take care of ourselves. So I hope you have found this helpful. Let me know in the comments below what really resonated with you. I would love to hear some feedback back from you. Overall, take care of your mind, and the art will take care of itself. In the next video, I'm going to continue this conversation in talking about emotional and spiritual self-care for artists.